Hi, good night. Welcome to Conversation with Rickford Burke. This, of course, is Rickford Burke in New York. I'm seeing the comments already. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Share the link. This is a very important program. I've always said that we do important programs, and it's important for us to share this information. So, what I want you to do tonight is every one of you share this link to 20 persons. Everybody, going to every Guyanese group, share the link for this video, this podcast to every one of your contacts, be it on Facebook, be it on WhatsApp, be it in email, be it in Instagram, TikTok, Clubhouse, whatever. Share the link. Everybody share this link. Very important information. I'm not going to get started until I see thousands of you here. So if you want to get the information, share the link right away. Everybody, get into your Guyanese groups and share the link. Okay? Tonight we're going to talk. I'm looking at some information. We've got a lot of information. We spend all day at CGID getting information, verifying the information with people on the ground in Guyana. And so we have a lot of information for you. Everybody share the link. Text me, let me know where you're watching from, whether you're watching in New York or the United States. By the way, happy 4th of July. If you're watching from the Caribbean, happy CARICOM Day. I know the day is probably all over already in some other parts of the world. Good morning to you in Europe. Good morning to you in Africa. Good morning to you in Asia. Share link, and we'll be right back in 60 seconds when my technical guys tell me that you're ready. Share link. All right, I'm sharing the link too, and responding to some questions that you're sending me. Everybody share the link. Let me see how many people are all together watching this broadcast. We're broadcasting out of 1, 2, 3, 4 platforms. Share the link, everybody. Share this link. I keep saying one of the reasons why the protests for justice for Quentin Bacchus was so powerful, so successful, is because everybody participated. Everybody got information, everybody shared the information. The information flew across the world in the Guyanese diaspora like wildfire. I want you guys to do the same thing tonight, because tonight we're going to uncover some new information, new involvement of people that we have not heard about. We want to know why. Is there still a cover-up in the Guyana Police Force? Is the Guyana Police Force rotten to the core? Is the leadership of the Guyana Police Force encouraging these police officers to lie and to cover up and to obstruct justice? We want to know. We'll ask all of those questions tonight. So share the link with everybody. Again, share the link. This is very important. Ensure that all your family and friends all across Guyana, wake them up. I know some of them might be out. If they're at a bar or whatever, tell them still look at Conversation with Rickford Burke tonight. It's very important. Share the link. We'll give you an opportunity to share the link once more, and we'll be right back. Share this link to everybody. Get involved in all of your platforms. Share the link. Back in 60 seconds. Okay, welcome back to Conversation with Rickford Burke. Keep sharing the link, everybody. So we get started. Yesterday, the chairman of the Guyana Police Complaints Authority, retired Justice William Ramlal, announced that he has concluded the investigation of the shooting death of Pendon Bacchus. He said he submitted his report to the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Shalimar Hack, and he recommended that 3 officers be charged. He said that it is up to the DPP to determine what those charges are. Today, the DPP announced that the alleged shooter, one of the alleged shooters, the person that we all have come to know as the shooter. Now we know that there are possibly more than one shooters, but Christophe de Nobrega, Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega of the Special Branch Division of the Guyana Police Force, will be charged with murder and will appear before the court tomorrow. That's my inside information from my sources in the Guyana Police Force. The DPP also recommended that Sergeant Damien McLennan be charged with obstruction of justice, and that Lance Corporal Truston Simon should also be charged with attempted obstruction of justice, and in case of Lance Corporal Simon, he should also be charged with conduct prejudice to good order and discipline, which is some administrative charge. Now, these 3 individuals, I'm told by my sources in the police force, and my sources are very knowledgeable and they're accurate, that these 3 men will appear in court tomorrow before the chief magistrate. Now, today we issued a statement. We at the Caribbean Guyana Institute for Democracy issued a statement, and we said that now that these charges have been recommended and will be instituted tomorrow, that the Guyana Police Force or that the government must commission another investigation into how come the Guyana Police Force issued 3 false statements, misleading the public about this shooting. It cannot be anymore, as Dr. Hines said today, that we can have these shootings, number one. Number two, it cannot be that it is acceptable for a police force of a country to be lying like this and to be operating under abject dishonesty. The image of the Guyana police force is in tatters. It's battered. It has completely collapsed, demolished. The Guyana police force has no credibility, no integrity, none. Whether we want to believe it or not, at least from our perspective in the diaspora, absolutely none. When a police force could consecutively, after shootings, after shootings, after shootings, issue false statements covering up the facts, that Guyana police force, that police force's entire leadership should be removed. Instead, they're being promoted. They're being promoted. The police shot and killed Mr. Boston, or in Boston, in Essequibo. The police force lied and said that he was shot in a confrontation with the police. Police officers killed Kevin Andrews at Grove, East Bank, Demerara. The Guyana police force issued a statement lying, saying he was shot in a shootout with the police. Lie, not true. Investigation found he had no weapon. Now, now Quinn and Bacchus shooting happened. The first statement the police issued, the police claimed that he was seen by officers with a gun, and when they approached him or when they pursued him, he fired at the police officers and they returned fire and he was shot and killed. Keep sharing this link, everybody. Keep sharing the link. And I know that members of the Guyana Police Force are watching and the PVP government has people monitoring the show. Thank you very much. We are happy that you realize the importance of conversation with Rickford Burke and CGID and Rickford Burke himself in terms of the advocacy for justice, democracy, and an end to racism in Guyana. Thank that person that just sent me that message for reminding me that they're monitoring the program. I'm happy. They must get the message. So that was the first lie. Then within 4 hours of that first statement, they issued another statement claiming that Quinn and Bacchus was the subject of an intelligence operation. And we will break down who were the players in this investigation. They said that Quinn and Bacchus was a subject of this investigation, of an intelligence operation rather, and that he was about to sell a gun to an undercover officer. When he realized that the officer was the person that he was selling the gun to was a cop, and he opened fire. Complete lie. And all of this time, the government was silent. The police force was issuing these mendacious false statements. Government was silent. Then a video surfaced, a surveillance video from a nearby property showing the police officers chasing Quinn and Bacchus and shooting him in the back. Quinn and Bacchus did not fire any gun at the police. Then the police commissioner, the day after the video, after they get caught, this is the problem. The police force has no integrity to police itself. If that video did not, if that surveillance system on that property in the neighborhood did not capture the scene, nothing would become of these officers. The Guyana police force would have covered it up.
We cannot have a police force without credibility. We cannot have a police force whose leadership is so dishonest. And everybody in the country ought to express outrage, disappointment, disgust with the disrespect of the Guyana Police Force for the people of Guyana. And it is no coincidence that the police force is so dishonest when the leader of the Guyana Police Force currently, acting Commissioner of Police, Clifford Hickens, was himself in charge of a police squad, a death squad, that the then PPP government sent to Linden during the government of Donald Ramotar, or the presidency of Donald Ramotar, to put down a protest against electricity hike. The PPP doesn't want black people to protest in Guyana, period. The PPP government sent a death squad led by Clifford Hickens to Linden. Why? Because the people blocked the bridge. And they shot and killed 3 protesters, 3 African Guyanese citizens protesting, exercising their constitutional right to protest. And they shot and killed them. Mr. Hickens was promoted to police commissioner in spite of those shootings. It is a demonstration of the complete disregard and inhumanity of the People's Progressive Party towards black people in Guyana. It is an unqualified, unquestionable, unequivocal demonstration of their contempt for the African Guyanese community. And Hickens went to the commission and lied. He lied under oath. Everything was confusing. They don't know who shot. They don't know who gave the orders. That's a lie. Police officers firing weapons without instructions and nobody's held accountable. That's a lie. So the dishonesty starts at the top. And like I have said to people, I have nothing against Mr. Hickens. I don't know him. I am judging him from his conduct as the police commanding officer in Linden, in Region 10 at that time, and his conduct throughout. The nefarious activities that he has allegedly been involved in. And I could call them out. But that's not the subject of tonight's program. Included in the discussion tonight is that the fish rots from the top in the Guyana Police Force. So how can we continue to just go about life as normal when the police has not been held to account for the lies that they put out with regard to Quentin Bacchus' death? It cannot be that the nation would just go on, because it is no longer speculation that the police force lied to the public. The DPP statement today confirms that they lied. The DPP statement confirms that the police officers at the scene and involved in this shooting committed crimes. Their conduct was criminal. The Guyana Police Force at the time of the shooting claimed that Mr. Bacchus's conduct was criminal. That's a lie. Somebody must be held accountable for this. Could you imagine every day when police officers give statements against witnesses in court that they possibly lie? How can the courts have confidence and trust in the testimony of police officers? We had a similar situation here in the Bronx, where it was discovered by a sting operation that a set of police detectives were lying and framing citizens. And it was a disaster. The court had to dismiss every single case in which they were witnesses. There needs to be such an investigation in Guyana. Share the link, everybody. Keep sharing this link. Now, the government hasn't said anything. Not the Minister of National Security or Home Affairs. Not the President, who's been very vocal about only the people in Manipur that were affected by the unrest. Not the Attorney General. Nobody. They just glossed over this, see no evil, hear no evil, and they keep going as if the Guyana police force has not committed crimes. This statement, those two statements that the Guyana police force issued, they constitute obstruction of justice. And if it were in this country where I live, the people who issued those statements would all be charged with crimes. They attempted to pervert the court of justice. They committed misconduct in public office. And mind you, the police force, the Guyana government just went to Parliament and passed a law making misconduct in public office, the sentence for conviction of misconduct in public office, lifetime, because they're trying to jail the people they're charging now for misconduct in office, the African Guyanese citizens from GCOM and the APNU coalition, etc., and the former CEOs, they're trying to jail them for life. But they are committing misconduct in office. They should be jailed for life. So the government must give an account for what the police force did. This issue of justice for Quindon Bacchus doesn't end because the DPP has recommended charges. We don't know what's going to happen in the court. We don't know if the files will disappear. We don't know if evidence will disappear. It is the end product that produces justice, which means convictions and life sentences for murder, and then the other appropriate sentences for the other crimes allegedly committed by the two officers. So I hope the government is not contemplating that because charges have been recommended and charges would probably or predictably be preferred tomorrow and read to these accused in court, that the protest will end. No, the protest must continue all the way to convictions. And the protest must continue all the way until there's accountability in the Guyana police force for the misleading criminal statements that they issued in an attempt to cover up the murder of Quindon Bacchus. And I saw somebody today posting that I am going all out on this Quindon Bacchus murder and I don't know the people. Excuse me? I lived in Golden Grove. I know the relatives of Quindon Bacchus very well. Some of the relatives I know very well. So y'all take that to y'all mind. Take that out of your mind. Everybody keep sharing the link. Keep sharing the link. I'm going to get to the real meat of it. So I want the protesters to call for accountability for the misleading statements, the attempt by the Guyana police force itself, the institution, to cover up this murder. And today we ask, who are the people involved in providing this information? And tonight we have the answers. And I'll come to that. Tonight we have the answers. There must be accountability. The president, if he doesn't want to force the police to give an account, then the president and the government, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the president are responsible for this. They can run and say, well, it's not us. Yes, you are, because the president supervises the Minister of Home Affairs. The Minister of Home Affairs supervises the police force. The buck stops at the head. And if head's got to roll, it must roll straight to the top. Heads must roll. This nonsense that the police force does of lying to cover up shootings cannot continue. The nation must have trust in the police force. The police force is not a private police force. The police force is not an Indian police force. The police force is not the PPP police force. The police force is not Picken or Ben or Ali's police force. It is the people. It is the nation. It is the state, which comprises the government and the people, that own the Guyana police force. The Guyana police force cannot get away with the statements it's issued lying. We want to know how those statements were issued. The police force must give an account how this misinformation got to the public. If those videos did not capture that murder, good God, people, they would have gotten away with it. Contemplate that. If there weren't eyewitnesses to this murder, the Guyana police force would have covered up this murder. In any other civilized democratic society, the police commissioner would have had to resign. Look at what happens in London. Look at what happens in Trinidad, right across the sea. People are held accountable. Not ever in any PPP administration have I ever seen any leadership person being held accountable for murders, for theft, for embezzlement, for fraud, for political assassinations. Nothing. They never hold anyone accountable. Why? These acts are directed from the top. So when they're caught, they're covered up from the top. Everybody keeps sharing the link. So that's that. That's the first issue. And let me say, we know who the players are. And we have some of the documents from the files. And we're going to shock the Guyana police force. If this matter is not addressed, there must be accountability. The police force must say, give an account for how this information and this attempt to pervert the course of justice occurred. And then I want to move on to this issue of the promotions in the Guyana police force. The promotions in the Guyana police force. Guyana police force is rotten to the core. Now just imagine 1, 2, 3. Sorry, not one. Well, let me start off by saying one. One of the police officers here, the sergeant, the supervisor, was promoted yesterday. And the question that must be asked is, how was this possible if the Guyana police force is alleging that he committed obstruction of justice? And that is Sergeant Damien McLennan. Follow me very carefully. The police force just announced to the nation yesterday that this is an officer of distinction. This is an officer of competence. This is a qualified officer. Those are the officers that are promoted. And Sergeant Damien McLennan wasn't just promoted. He skipped 2 ranks. He went from a sergeant straight to cadet officer. Some people might argue, no, he didn't skip any rank. He just entered a program. But to me, he skipped 2 ranks. So we have to ask the question, this is paradoxical. This is oxymoronic. How can the police force tell us one day that a sergeant is qualified, bright, competent, eligible to be an officer? This is not just a rank, an increase in a rank, a promotion in a rank. He's now entering the realm of leadership of the force. And the Guyana police force is also telling us 24 hours after that he's a criminal. Something is wrong with this picture. And we have to find out. The Guyana police force cannot tell us that it is this incompetent and the so-called unconstitutional Police Service Commission cannot tell the nation that they are so incompetent that they did not do due diligence, that they had no clue that this young man was under investigation, and they promoted him. It cannot be. It cannot be. The police force must give an explanation for this. Now, also, we understand that 3 other officers who were allegedly involved in this shooting were not investigated or were exonerated by this investigation. And if police officers allegedly were involved in a shooting and they weren't even charged with misconduct, not some administrative breach of police policy and procedure, something is wrong. And we will get to the bottom of it. Now, today we got information that 3 other officers were involved in this shooting. Three other officers were involved in this shooting. 2 of whom were also promoted yesterday. Would you believe that? There's a big cloud over these officers. The police force couldn't defer their promotion. They just promoted them. And they promoted them even before Justice Ramlal issued his statement, which I must say was appalling statement. It was an appalling statement. It was an appalling statement. So many mistakes in the statement, but I'll leave that alone. So who are these officers that were allegedly involved in this shooting? As well, credible sources in the Guyana Police Force with 100% credibility and confidence informed CGID and provided documentation to support the information that then Inspector Richard Ramatar, as well as then Sergeant Sunil Prasad, were also involved in this operation, along with Lekram Ruplal. They're all East Indians. Not a word about them in this investigation. Disappeared. Not a word. Now, why? 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 We have to get to the bottom of it, and we're going to get to the bottom of it tonight. Right now, everybody keep sharing this link. Did you hear anything about these 3 officers? Now, I'm not going to say everything that I know, but Inspector Richard Ramatar was promoted to an assistant superintendent yesterday, right? And Sunil Prasad was promoted from a sergeant to an inspector yesterday. Now, what were their roles allegedly in this shooting? And before I get to that, let me say this. Remember, I asked the question of the Ghana Police Force, how this misleading information got to the public, how this lie, this attempt to cover up Quindon Bacchus's murder, got into police statement, two police statements. How did that happen? More than one police source have said to us that a report on this incident was sent to police headquarters, allegedly by the inspector. The inspector who was just promoted to assistant superintendent. If that is so, now remember this is alleging. This is police source alleging. And the police source is 100% certain about the information. Tonight, sources in the Ghana Police Force have said to us in CGID that it was then Inspector Ramatar, Richard Ramatar, who sent the report to police headquarters. I don't know what the report says. What I know is based on that report, allegedly, police issued statements that were false, that were, in our view, intended to pervert the course of justice, to mislead the public, to cover up what happened. And it was indeed an attempt to cover it up. The DPP has confirmed that. The DPP today said that the officer's conduct was criminal and that Quindon Bacchus then, well, she didn't say that, but based on this now, we know that he did not commit a crime. Because if he was shot in commission of a crime or while endangering the lives of these police officers, that is a justifiable shooting. That is a justifiable use of force. If I am pointing a gun at a police officer and the police officer shoots me, that's a justifiable shooting. Now, it is not a justifiable shooting if I did not pose a threat to the police officer, if I was fleeing from the police officer, whether I had a gun or not, and if the police officer knew that I was unarmed, or if the police officer knew that I was unarmed or had a toy weapon or something. Knowledge and intent. Knowledge and intent are the basis for charges after an investigation. What the police officer knew at the time, what they were doing, the actions of the suspect that they shot or the victim, all those are the main factors that contribute to whether or not charges should be laid. And in this case, we know it was planned. They planned, or at least the Nobruga planned to kill based on what the DPP has recommended the charge to be. And murder means premeditation, intent, intentional action. They planned to kill Quindon Bacchus. And it seems to me also they planned to cover it up. And if this operation went wrong, how come the commander on the scene, the supervisor on the scene, has not been disciplined or charged? And that is Richard Ramatar, promoted. It seems as though when police officers kill black people, the PPP government celebrates and promotes them. They promote him to police commissioner after he led a squad that shot these protesters. Now, Richard Ramatar, who was the most senior person involved in this operation, an East Indian officer, is escaping scot-free. There must be accountability. There must be accountability. Now, our sources are telling us that, and this is a special branch operation. My father was a special branch officer, a senior special branch officer. I'm not sure that this is in the purview of special branch. This seemed to me to be a CID operation. If it was a genuine operation, to me, I'm not a police officer, and I don't really care, but I'm just saying, based on my knowledge of how criminal justice works, and don't mind you, I study criminal justice. This is not an intelligence operation. This is a criminal investigation operation. This should be. I could understand if they wanted to use special branch officers to provide intelligence to CID. Well, how come a special branch officer or a special branch unit that should be investigating the safety and security of the state and protecting individuals have time to go chasing behind a man who allegedly got a gun to sell to another man? This is very, very suspicious. All right? Very suspicious. And this operation was not based, I mean, these three individuals, Ramatar, Singh, and Ramroop, they're not based on the East Coast. They're based at the special branch headquarters. Ruplal, they're based, Ruplal, Prasad, and Ramatar, they're based at special branch headquarters. What were they doing on the East Coast involved in this so-called operation? And mind you, our sources in the police force also told us that based on discussions in the police force, the command on the East Coast did not know about this operation either. I'm talking about the overall command. This is what police sources are telling us. So was this really an operation sanctioned by the Ghana Police Force? It is also our understanding from our sources that Sergeant McClellan is based at Cove and John. So, and my father did the exact work. Based on my understanding, my father was special branch based at Cove and John, which is the commanding center for the police force for the entire East Coast. C Division. Now it's called, I think, Region 4, probably B or whatever. I'm not sure, C. So he's based at that special branch office on the East Coast of Cove and John. And apparently, somehow, these officers coming from Georgetown got him involved in this incident. But like I said, our source did not tell us about the operational functions within the special branch. So we don't know how this sergeant got involved in this so-called operation that was allegedly conducted by, well, not allegedly, that was conducted by these Georgetown headquarters-based, special branch headquarters-based other officers. Now, it is our understanding that Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega, Sergeant Sunil Prasad, and Lance Corporal Truston Simon were in the black vehicle that we saw. It was seen all over social media, saw that video from the surveillance video that I spoke of earlier. We know exactly where these officers were based on the reports that they filed. And like I said, we have documents to prove what I'm saying. So these officers were in the black vehicle. Sunil Prasad was in the front seat. Sergeant Sunil Prasad was in the front seat of that same black car. Now, we heard earlier claims that Dinobraga was in the trunk of the car. Our police sources are saying, based on reports, based on statements that our sources gained knowledge of, it was not Dinobraga that was in the trunk of the car, but Lance Corporal Simon. I don't know, I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what information we have. And all of this information that we have, we've already compiled it into a report, which will be going to Congress and the Biden administration. Based on the reports, again, that the investigation discovered, Sergeant Sunil Prasad exited the front seat, and he could be seen holding a firearm in the direction of Bacchus. Sunil Prasad was allegedly involved in the shooting of Quindon Bacchus. Sergeant Sunil Prasad, who was just promoted to inspector, was allegedly involved in the shooting of Quindon Bacchus. The report says that we got Sunil Prasad allegedly fired the first set of shots in the direction of Bacchus. I don't know if he hit him, I don't know if he missed him, but that's what our police sources are saying. More than one source. It's also saying that Lakram Ramroop was seen in a video wearing a red t-shirt, or as you guys say in Ghana, jersey, with a firearm in his hand, running in the direction, pointing it at Bacchus. I wasn't there, I don't know. I'm saying what we were told the report found, or the investigation found or should have found. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Our sources allege that the senior officer on the scene, whoever that is, I think we know who that is, instructed that Sunil Prasad be left out of the reports, except one report that says that he was swabbed for DNA, but he wasn't. I don't know. Listen to what I'm saying. Our sources in the Ghana Police Force are telling us that they learned that, and senior police officers know that the senior officer on the scene instructed the others that when they wrote their report, that it should not include the conduct of Prasad. His identity was left out of the statement. It could very well be that he's a supposedly undercover officer, and undercover officers aren't mentioned publicly. I am not sure why this officer, if he was on the scene, was not mentioned, or they give instructions not to mention him. Like I said, it is possible that there's a legitimate reason. Maybe he's an undercover officer. He's not an undercover officer anymore. His cover has been blown. We know who he is. And we will publish his photograph tomorrow. The information we got is that the senior officer did not allow Prasad to be swabbed. Is this true? The Guyana Police Force must answer. Although the report that we got says that it was presented to the Police Complaints Authority that he was swabbed. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know if it's true. I'm telling you what the report we have says. And all of this swabbing and statements being written and so on happened at the Cove and John Police Station. Again, our sources are saying that the video shows that Sunil Prasad, then sergeant, now inspector, was seen shooting several rounds in the direction of Bacchus. Now, here's the thing. Every gun, once it's fired, that spent shell has a unique identification mark. Because as it comes out of the barrel of that gun, it is bruised or creased based on the surface of the inside of that barrel. So if the surface has a couple of scratches or dents or whatever, as it comes out, it adapts that signature of the barrel. And the analysis of that is called ballistics. So the police must have ballistic testing for the rounds that were recovered on the scene and recovered from Mr. Bacchus's body at the postmortem or at the autopsy. The police force must tell us whether or not Sunil Prasad's gun was fired, how many bullets were fired, or at least how many bullets were missing from his gun when it was lodged. Because we know a police officer is not going to go on the road with no empty gun. These are serious allegations that the Guyana Police Force must answer to the nation. They have an obligation to the Bacchus family, Quindon Bacchus family, his parents, his child, his partner, his extended family, the grieving people of Golden Grove, the grieving traumatized people of Golden Grove. Now, we have additional information that says Sergeant McLennan, based on the reports, was the driver of a second vehicle, a white police vehicle, belonging to the Criminal Investigation Department. And that was not captured in the video. So the vehicle was in the vicinity, it was not captured in the vehicle. So I don't know what is the basis for the charges recommended against these two individuals, Lance Corporal Simon and Sergeant McLennan. But if this vehicle with the other officers from CID, which included a special branch sergeant, Sergeant McLennan, who is now a cadet officer, how come he's charged and Sunil Prasad is not charged, Ramatar, who headed the operation, is not charged. And Lekram, who was seen with a gun in his hand, not charged. I'm not sure who conducted these investigations. I mean, I know it's not operationally, it is not Justice Ramlal himself. Justice Ramlal would have had to work with presumably persons from either CID, investigators from CID, sorry, I'm mixing it up with CGID, sorry, CID, Office of Professional Responsibility, or Special Branch. Is there a cover-up of the true actions of these police officers? If so, I hope that the other officers who will be charged and placed before the court tomorrow will reveal the truth. So I'm calling on Christophe de Nobrega. I'm calling on Lance Corporal Christophe de Nobrega. I'm calling on Lance Corporal Simon, Thurston Simon. I'm calling on Sergeant Damian McLennan to tell the truth to the public. Are you guys going to go down for this alone? Are you guys going to be the scapegoat of this murderous operation when there are other people involved? I hope these officers, we are going to know eventually at the trial what happened. I hope that they're not going to go to the stand and cover this up. It will be a crime. It would be perjury if they lie. It is now incumbent on these officers. Why these black officers alone are being charged? Are we really at a stage where this country is making people from a certain ethnicity above the law? Where they're exempt from accountability? Where there's unchecked lawlessness, carte blanche, to act criminally towards African Guyanese? These are questions. And let me address something. Because I was talking to a member of the government today who said that our exposing these things is racism. And that our advocacy is race-based. Hogwash. Hogwash. We are responding to PPP racism. If the PPP is practicing racism, we can't go and talk about what the Amerindians are doing or wrongfully accuse Amerindians of racism. We have to talk about what prejudices exist in the policies and practices of the government. And CGID's function, its official function for which it was incorporated, is to do justice, to ensure justice, to advocate for fairness, democratic adherence to democratic principles and the rule of law, and to advocate for a favorable foreign policy, U.S. foreign policy to the Caribbean. That's the mission of CGID. To root out racism, to root out injustices, to pursue rule of law, to ensure that people have justice, to promote and ensure social justice. That's the mission of CGID, and that's what we will pursue without fear or favor. We did the exact same thing under the Granger administration. There was no other supporter of the coalition that was more critical of the Granger government than CGID and myself. We're consistent. We criticize the Jamaican government. We criticize the Barbadian government. We hammer the Grenadian government. We hammer the United States government. We criticize the mayors of New York, even though I know all of them. They're my friends. Over the years, I criticized Mayor Bloomberg. We worked together. I criticized Mayor Bill de Blasio. I've worked on him with several projects, including when I worked at the New York City Council. And I just criticized the police conduct in certain communities on the President Eric Adams, on the Mayor Eric Adams, who is my friend for years. We are fearless in our advocacy for what we believe in. And even though I support unapologetically the PNC and the coalition, I criticize them. Some of them hate me for that. Some of them don't talk to me for that. I don't care, because our advocacy is just. So don't tell me that because I am Black, I mustn't criticize racism by the East Indian-led government. Go to hell. Go right to hell. I will do it. CJID will continue to do it. If you don't want us to criticize you, if you don't want us to accuse you of racism, do the right thing. Act justly. Follow the principles of democracy. Adhere to the rule of law. Ensure there's justice. Govern equitably. Govern equally. I am still waiting for this government, this racist apartheid PPP government, to explain to the world their justification for going to Monrepo and compensate the East Indian vendors in the market whose produce and items were destroyed during the unrest. And I don't have a problem with that, because governments all around the world compensate people for disasters. The problem is it has to be based on a policy that is just and equal and equitable. So if the people in Monrepo were affected, everybody else that were affected must also be equally compensated. They left out the Black people at Golden Grove, whose stalls were destroyed, whose products were destroyed, whose stalls were thrown onto the road and burnt. There is no justification for it. And I am calling on attorneys in Guyana to take them to court and force them to end this racist policy. That is apartheid. That is apartheid. They cannot defend it. They must pay the people in Golden Grove too. They must. It is confirmation that they're racist. And we mustn't talk about that. Hogwash. We will talk about it until racism by the PPP becomes extinct. Guyana is not India. Guyana is not Pakistan. Guyana is not Bangladesh. Guyana is Guyana, land of 6 races, multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural. The PPP government must end racism. We're going to keep hammering them. We will destabilize them. We will undermine them. We will do everything possible to defeat their racism. If you claim that you're the government of the country, govern equally, justly, equitably for all. For all. You can compensate your Indian supporters in Monrepo and don't compensate the Black people in Golden Grove. It is racism. Perfectly defined, unadulterated, unequivocal racism. It must end. This is the same government that boldly and openly gives contracts only to East Indian. This is the same government that boldly and openly only give flood relief to East Indians, COVID relief to East Indians, fired Black public servants, have the police force persecuting Black people, open shots, instructed the police to shoot Black people protesting for justice. This is the same government that shot a black reporter from Starbuck News and her son, and they damn I so past black people, they wouldn't even issue an apology. And you're telling me that I am racist because I am condemning your racism? And you think that your political strategy of conflating criticism of the PPP with criticism of East Indians? No. We're not criticizing East Indians. We're not against East Indians. We are against East Indian racists, just as we're against black racists. And calling out East Indian racism is just proper and should be done. Just like calling out black racism must be done. We are unapologetic, unrelenting, and fearless in this advocacy to root out PPP racism in Guyana. And we will fight them in the international community with tenacity and unrelenting fervor. Must end. This is a country now on the world stage with oil and gas. Look today, they're claiming they went to Buxton. And the only reason they decided to go to Buxton is because we're calling them out for racism. They compensated the people of Monrepo millions of dollars. But they went to Buxton under this PR pretense that they're going to talk development. What happened after they left Buxton? They sent a couple of balls, some hoops of basketball, and bush cutters. That is the concept of development? How about signing an MOU with the people of Buxton and the Regional Democratic Council and the NDC for shore-based oil and gas operations to be based in Buxton to hire Buxtonians? How about that? That's development. How about signing an MOU or an agreement that will be effectuated with the region and the NDC to upgrade and develop the roads in Buxton, the library in Buxton, the post office in Buxton, the schools in Buxton? That's development. How about upgrading the water supply so that water could go straight to the shower of the people of Buxton, regardless of how high their homes are? That's development. How about cleaning the clogged trenches and giving lands to the people to plant agricultural products, to start farming? How about giving them grants to start small businesses? That's development. We don't want to hear talk anymore. We want you to do the same thing you're doing for Breeding Hoop and Clonbrook and Windsor Forest and Porica and Blackbush Polder and Port Morant. That's development. That's rural development. Don't tell me what no damn ball. The only thing y'all think black people need is entertainment and recreation. Oh, we can't eat that. The people in Buxton can't eat and sleep on that. Young people want homes. Did you go there and give them house lots from the age 18 and teach them how to be productive, responsible citizens? No, you give them basketball and hoop and brush cutter. What the hell are they going to do with the brush cutter? What the hell are they going to do after they finish playing basketball and throwing the ball? What are they going to do? Employment in Buxton is over. Youth employment is over 40%. Bring jobs to Buxton. That's development. That's empowerment. When you help the people of Buxton to become self-sufficient. You don't want basketballs. Don't insult our intelligence. Don't come and give the people in Buxton basketballs that worth $50 US, but you're going to Breeding Hoop and you're forming conglomerates with all your East Indian donors and supporters to get hundreds of billions of dollars in contracts. Help the people of Buxton to get a contract for Exxon too. Bring some shore-based operations to Buxton. Create jobs. That's development. And if you're not doing it, but you're doing it for your East Indian villages, that is racism, that's apartheid. And we gotta stop it. We gotta stop it. So as I wrap this up tonight, wow, let me say this. I don't realize the time went by so quickly. We are approaching a different era in Guyana, an era of PPP accountability, nationally and internationally. We're gonna turn it up against this racist government. We're gonna turn it up. And I don't care how many letters they write to the US government, to the US ambassador. I live in a free and open society and I'm fearless and unrelenting. If you claim to be the government of Guyana, govern for everybody. If you claim to be the government of Guyana, ensure that there's justice. Through justice flowing like a mighty river where there's accountability, personal accountability for wrongdoing, regardless of who it is. Nobody's above the law. No East Indian, no Black, no Amerindian, no Chinese, no Portuguese, no mixed race. The rule of law must be paramount. If East Indian officers were involved in the shooting of Quinton Bacchus, they must be held accountable too. If they were not, then the most appropriate thing is to ensure justice in that case by having a proper investigation and exonerating them. You can't promote them with this big cloud hanging over their head. No. So let the message go loud and clear. I want to tell the people of Golden Grove that this matter can end. There must be justice. If Assistant Superintendent Ramatar was involved in this shooting, he must be disciplined, he must be charged if he committed a crime. If Dinobrega, Lance Corporal Dinobrega, Christophe Dinobrega was involved and shot and killed Quinton Bacchus, he must be disciplined, he must be charged and prosecuted. If Lance Corporal Thurston Simon was involved in this killing, he must be disciplined, charged appropriately, and prosecuted. If Lake Ramroop, police officer, special branch officer, Lake Ramroop was involved in this shooting, there must be a proper investigation. His role must be determined. He must be disciplined, charged appropriately, and prosecuted. If Inspector Sunil Prasad was involved in this shooting, he must be prosecuted. He must be disciplined, investigated properly, disciplined, charged, prosecuted. Likewise, if Sergeant Damian McLennan was involved in this shooting, he must be investigated, he must be charged appropriately based on the evidence, and prosecuted. There must be fairness on all sides. There must be justice from all perspectives. If these officers did not act criminally, then exonerate them. But you know what? Based on what the DPP statement is saying, this operation turned into criminal activity. All of them should be disciplined. All. If are charged, if they're not charged criminally, they have to be charged departmentally. They've violated police procedure. They lied. Whomever. They tried to cover up. All of them are culpable. They have criminal exposure, criminal liability, all of them. You can't only charge the black officers. What the hell is that? That's justice? That's a just society? We're not accepting that. No way, no how, under no sun. Charge the Indian officers as well. And like I said, if these officers were not involved, exonerate them. That's justice. It is not right to charge them criminally for something they weren't involved in. Just as it is not right to charge the black officers for something they did not do. But like I said, all of them committed wrongdoing. All of them. Everybody that was involved in this operation should be disciplined. They broke the law, or at least they broke police procedure. That's my message tonight. And I know the police force is going to want to issue statement cursing me out. Let's have a go at it. Let's have a go at it. I am willing to fight the war. I am fearless. I'm willing to fight the war. Let's have a go at it. Because we have the facts and we have documents to back it up. We have statements. We have some documents from the file. Go and investigate that. Go and investigate that. This is my message to you tonight, everybody. Let's keep fighting for justice. Let's keep fighting for a just, democratic society that stands on the principles of the rule of law. Let's cultivate a country that subscribes entirely to the democratic ethos. Don't come and tell me that democracy means free and fair elections, and you stop there and you're shooting at people who demonstrate, trying to take away people's rights, investigating people that make comments on posts, social media posts, hacking into their phones, hacking into their emails, calling them for interviews. We know what's happening, and we're making a record of it. And we're submitting reports to Congress constantly, continuously. And I want to say this to American investors. And we will start a campaign to the investors. Guyana is not an appropriate climate for any more investment until this government gets its act together in the United States. It is against the law for American companies and citizens to invest and have relationships with racist apartheid governments like the PPP. Also, when it comes to corruption, it is definitely against the Foreign Corruption Act for American companies and American citizens to bribe foreign government officials, which we know, based on the Vice News report, happens in Guyana. PPP government officials, including Barry Jack, they are allegedly taking bribes. There must be an investigation to find out if American companies are bribing PPP officials. The campaign is on. And mind you, we also know that the PPP government is enlisting people to lobby members of Congress for them. I wish you good luck, because we are also going to do the same thing. We're going to send information to our members of Congress. That's our right as their constituents. Good luck with that. Paying lobbyists to give misinformation to members of Congress is over, and paying lobbyists to give contributions to Republican members of Congress who don't even know where Guyana is, who know nothing about Guyana, but issue favorable statements because they're being lobbied, is over. We will send information to those people. And if you think you can win the information war, let's have a go at it. Good night, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining me. I appreciate everyone joining, everyone sharing this message. Everyone, have a good night. Thanks for watching.